When I first booted up Tunic, I was briefly back in my bedroom in the mid-90s, first booting up A Link to the Past on my SNES. The game looks like a classic Zelda game. It moves like a classic Zelda game, and the hero even looks like someone who could not decide between a Star Fox and a Link cosplay and just did both. That, however, is where I feel the comparisons end. Tunic is hard. Not the hardest game, but this is no Zelda game. This game will hold you down and beat you until you learn to like it. It's more like Dark Souls in that respect than A Link to the Past. It even has your obligatory campfires that respawn enemies and refill your potions. You're gonna die, and die often. The combat is fair, you're rarely gonna get hit unless you make a mistake, but the learning curve is steep. You have to figure out which enemies can just power through your hits, and which ones you can stun lock with fancy footwork and well-timed swings. The game also makes ample use of consumables and limited use items. You will have your entire moveset early, but your tactics will evolve as you find new and interesting ways to use the items you find in the world. The game also takes a Souls-like position on story, in that you're gonna have to go digging for it yourself. This game gives you very little. Conversations take place in a fake language consisting of hieroglyphics. Signs are written in this fake language, and even the tutorials begin in this language, and you then translate as you progress. As a neat feature, the tutorials are presented in the form of an old school instruction manual, the kind I would always forget to return with rented games. As someone who grew up in the golden age of video game instruction manuals, this was an appreciated bit of nostalgia. Younger gamers might not know just how cool the contents of game boxes used to be, so this feature may be lost on them. But as an 80s, 90s kid, it's honestly such a cool idea, I wonder why more modern games don't do it. I feel the best part of this game is the boss battles. They are numerous, varied, and the designs of the bosses are cool as hell. They will punish you, but their patterns are learnable, and I never once felt I was getting killed by cheap or unfair tactics. Their AI, and the AI of the general enemies, are good but not great. Enough to challenge you, but also predictable enough to master them. The abilities are readable, so it's just a matter of learning and memorization, not necessarily of raw reflex or skill. There is something missing from the game in my opinion, a certain je ne sais quoi. In its attempt to merge the gameplay of an old school SNES isometric action RPG and a modern Souls-like, it seems to have lost a real sense of its own identity. The game comes across as oddly generic despite having so much little flair like the in-game manual. The character is cute, would probably make a half-decent plushie, but there's nothing to really set it apart from the crowd. It's just a fox in a green tunic. Even an eye patch or some other defining feature would do wonders to add character to Tunic. It's still a solid game, and half the price of most games of its size and quality, so I would recommend it for any fan of the genres represented, or even for someone wanting to get a little hit off that nostalgia pipe. But I doubt it's going to go down as anything more than a solid piece of tribute to one of gaming's classic franchises. That said, the foundation is here, and if a sequel could find that it factor, I think it could find itself among the great indie titles of this generation. Tunic earns an 8 out of 10.
Hey, did you like that video? If you did, be sure to let us know by clicking the like button and leaving a comment. If you want to be first in line for any new content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and then hit up our Facebook page. The link's in the description below to see what's coming up next.